Alright, in this session I'm going to finish the discussion of the project, the risk management project. And what we're going to do here is, I think, very important to learn, which is manager attribution. I don't have it linked on the spreadsheet, so you're using the Efficient Frontier spreadsheet that's under on Blackboard under the paper, the files for the paper. I don't have a link to manager attribution, but if you go to the right, you can see there's a page for manager attribution, and if you click on that, let me get the screen so you can see it, but if you click on that, manager attribution, I've done a manager attribution for Fidelity Contra Fund. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to recreate this entire page from scratch so you can watch me. So I'm going to do a blank page. And you'll notice we have data back to 1988, so you need a fund that has at least 10 years. If it goes back further than 1988, you'll just start it at 1988. There's no reason to go any further than that. So I'm going to go to Yahoo Finance. Yahoo Finance is just, you go to yahoo.com and then click on Finance. So you need to find, very important, you need to find a one asset fund. So it needs to be a U.S. large cap fund, or U.S. large cap growth fund, or U.S. small cap value fund. I'll show you how you can look for that, but you can go to any major investment firm like Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, Vanguard, UTSA. Make sure it's an actively managed fund. Vanguard has a lot of index funds. You don't want to do an index fund. You want to do an actively managed fund. Go to their site and find a fund other than the Fidelity Contra Fund. That's the one you cannot do. So watch as I type the word Fidelity, you'll see a lot of funds come up for Fidelity. So you might find one that works really good. So here you have a blue chip growth fund that would be a large cap growth. So that one would work, Fidelity blue chip. You don't want the sector funds. Here's a Fidelity growth company, so that one would probably work. So just type in the word Fidelity, type in the word T. Rowe Price, type in the word UTSA. Some funds will come up. So I'm going to do the Contra Fund. That's a fund we used to be invested in many years ago. When it comes up, I'm going to click on the profile, and there's a box down here called the Morningstar box. And the Morningstar box tells me this is a large company stock fund, and it's a growth fund, so large company growth. You can have value. If it says blend, the word blend sometimes is the word core, or if they don't say it, they just say it's large company fund, it's probably blend. So they're telling me this is a growth fund, so I'm going to assume it's a growth fund. I'm then going to click on historical data, and I'm going to click on the dates. I'm going to click max, and you notice the max goes back to 1980, so I don't need to go back to 1980. That's too far back, so I'm going to change my start date to 12/31/1987 because my data goes back to 1988. Actually, I might, let me change that. I might go back 1 month before that and do 11/30. Because to do January 1988, I need December 1987. So I'll try that. We'll see. If it gives me too much data, I can change it. And then on the frequency, you want to type monthly. Then click the apply button. Don't forget to do that. And then download the data. And it will bring in Fidelity. Let's see what we got here. We're bringing Fidelity. Perfect. It gave me 12/31/87, and it goes all the way through. If I do control in the bottom down to March, I don't need March because we don't. The month of March is still going on at the time I'm doing this. Now, when you do your project, it might be April 5th or 12th, then you can use March, but then you delete April. So delete whatever month is not complete, and then I'm going to delete everything except for the adjusted close. The adjusted close, I'm going to change this to commas. The adjusted close adjusts for the dividends that the fund pays, and you definitely want to have the adjusted close. It gives you the best total return, So I'm going to delete everything except for the adjusted close. I'm then going to take all of this and copy it, and I'm going to bring it over to the efficient frontier. So I suggest you do the exact same thing I did. Create a sheet in the efficient frontier model because you want to be in this model when you do this. Copy and paste your firm over there. I'm going to call this the contra fund. So that's the first column I need, and then I'm going to do contra fund holding period return. The holding period return is you just do equal, open parentheses, you do the price for January 1988 divided by the price for January 1987, close parentheses, minus 1, and that gives you the total return for this fund for January 1988. Put it into percents with 2 decimal places, and just double click on that little square at the bottom and we'll copy it all the way down. So now you've got returns for the contra fund for all of these months. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the S&P 500. So you just equal the equal sign and go over to, it's to the right. You want to go to asset returns pace values and find the S&P 500. You can see there is January 1988. So I click on that and hit enter. Now, if you're doing a fund that doesn't go back to 1988, if you only go back to 1995, then on the asset pace values, you need to find the whatever. Let's say you start February of 1995, then you would go over and click on that 3.9 and copy that down. So I'm going to copy that down. That gives me the S&P 500. And since the contra fund was shown as a large cap growth, I'm then going to do large cap growth. And I'll go find that on the asset pace values. So go back up to the top. There it is, large cap growth. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to copy that down. And one thing you might want to try right here, it's kind of interesting, you just do equal correlation, equal C-O-R-R-E-L. I'm going to do the contra fund, comma, I'm going to do the S&P 500. So there's definitely a problem here. So if the correlation is really low, what that probably means is there's an error somewhere in the data. So let's look down and see if we can find that. Look at the prices for a contra fund. I've noticed this on a few funds right here. Notice there's something wrong there, so I'm going to assume that that price is not $76, but it's $7.62. I'm going to fix that one. I notice here there's another one. The decimal place got in the wrong spot. I'm going to fix that one. See if there's any others. That looks good. I go back up to the top, and now my correlation is 0.75. It's not great, but it's an okay correlation. You need to be at least above, well, against the S&P, you would expect to be low. I'm going to do it against the growth. They say it's a growth fund, so let's see if it really is. So I'm going to do the contra fund versus the growth index. And it's actually slightly lower. So since it's slightly lower, I'm going to actually do all of my math. Well, I'll use the growth. I'll show you how we can do both in there. They're both about the same. The last thing I need is a risk-free rate. So the risk-free rate, what I'm going to do is go into Yahoo, go into Google, and type H15. The letter H with the number 15, H15. When you do that, for me, the first thing that comes up is the Federal Reserve site. I'm going to click on historical data and then go to the historical data site, and then I want monthly averages. Click on monthly averages and say go to download. I'm going to download the file. And it did not do what I wanted, so I'm going to go back. Change format. I want it to be, where to go to Excel, and I want number of observations. I I want dates. So let's go back to 1987. December, and I want to go through 2020 through February. Go to download to see if this works. Download file. This is a new site for them, so sorry it takes me a couple of tries. You'll probably be experimenting as well. Download file. Yeah, it's still not doing it, so. Oh, okay, so here it is. So this looks like it worked. We'll see. All right. So it's giving me some error messages, but it did bring it in. So what we want to do is we got to figure out which fund it is. There we have. Look at column L. I have the 3-month T-bill. So I'm going to use that 3-month T-bill. And I've got it back from 87. You can see over here on the right, 87, December 87. Go all the way down to February. I'm going to control copy that. Go back to my spreadsheet. And in column F, I'm going to right click and paste value that. And this is going to be T-bills. So T-bills is going to be my risk-free rate. Now, you notice they don't put it as percents. They put it as whole numbers. So I'm actually going to take each one of those, the 577, and divide by 100. Change that to a percent with 2 decimals and copy that down. Then I'm going to Control C, and I'm going to paste it as values here. Again, make it percents. So you need to get the T-bills in there, and then I can get rid of that column. So I got my T-bill, so that's my risk-free rate. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate the alpha. So I'm going to do the alpha against the large cap growth because that's what they said it is. Even though the correlation is slightly higher for the S&P, I'm going to say, okay, they say it's a large cap growth fund. Morningstar does a lot of work to say that. So I'm going to do that. This is my monthly alpha. Alpha is very simple. You just take the holding period return for your fund and subtract the return for large cap growth, and that becomes your alpha all the way down. Just copy that down. Let me show you one more we can do. We're going to do the batting average. So for the batting average, I'm going to do contra fund up market, large cap growth up market. I'll just use MKT for market. I want contra fund down market, and I want large cap growth down market. All right, so this last thing I'll do in this session, and we'll start up on the next one. So what we'll do here is we want to know how does the holding period, how does the contra fund do when its benchmark is up, and how does it do when its benchmark is down? So what I'm going to do is do equal if large cap growth is greater than 0, comma, give me the contra fund, otherwise give me nothing. All right, I'll click that formula off to the right so you can see it. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing, large cap growth. I can say if large cap growth is greater than 0, then give me large cap growth. Otherwise, 2 quotes, give me nothing. So that's the next one. And then on the down market, the same thing. I'm going to do equal if large cap growth It's less than 0 to give me my fund, otherwise give me nothing. And you'll notice anytime there's a number in column H, there should not be one in J. All right, I'm going to do the same thing. Let me copy that formula over. Let me expand these out so you can see them. And then on large cap growth, I'm going to do the same thing. If large cap growth is less than 0, give me large cap growth. Otherwise, give me nothing. I'll copy that formula over. Hopefully you can pause the video if you need some help there. So I'm going to highlight those 4 cells. I'm going to copy them down. We'll just make sure it's working. And it sure looks like it's working. If you like, you can select those columns. Oh, one thing I forgot, go to the very bottom. My data only goes through 12/2019, so you need to get rid of those last 2 columns. Last 2 rows. Sorry about that. If you go to the very bottom of the spreadsheet, we can only go through 12/2019. So get rid of everything except for 12/2019. All right, so I'm going to go back over to H. I'm going to select all of those. I'm going to change it to percent with 2 columns. 2 decimals. So there's our formula there. So you should have your fund, adjusted prices. We should have the dates. You should start with whatever date you can start with and go down through 12/2019. The next column is your holding period return. You saw the formula for that. I'll put it up at the top just in case you need it. I brought the S&P 500 over from the asset return pace values. I brought whatever my fund's, whatever its strategy is, I brought its return over from the pace values. I brought in T-bills. I'll show you how to do that from the H15 file. It took me a couple of tries to get it, but it works. The alpha, I'll do that formula. For the alpha, you just want to take your return, column C, minus whatever your fund is doing. So in my case, large cap growth. You got the formulas for up markets, the formula for down markets. So now you got everything you need to build the attribution. So in the next session, we'll do the actual attribution.